Sales are down 20%, inventory is rising, and prices, they're still slipping. But condos are suddenly making up a big chunk of the action. So, what's really going on in Toronto's market? Is this the start of something bigger or just more market noise? Because honestly, we've heard this before. Things are shifting, buyers are back, the market is turning, but most of the time, it's not that simple. So let's just break down the numbers and just see what's actually happening. Because whether you're thinking about buying or wondering if now as a homeowner is the right time to sell, it's important to understand what's going on. So let's just get into the numbers. Real quick though, if we haven't met, I'm Richard, a Canadian real estate agent, just here to help you make sense of this market without the noise. So if clear data packed updates sounds helpful, hit the like and subscribe so you just don't miss out on the next one. Now we'll get into the actual Toronto numbers here in just a second, but first, let's just take a look at the bigger picture of what's driving this shift. Because across Canada last month, we've seen that there was early signs that we may have already hit the bottom of this cycle. And which leads me to believe this is because the national sales rose 1.8% month over month and affordability is improving on paper. With the falling rates, softer home prices, and just solid wage growth are making monthly mortgage payments more manageable, which are now sitting just over $2,600 on average across Canada, which is really the lowest it's been since 2022. But here in Toronto, that optimism hasn't really translated into action, as it's not just about affordability. Confidence is still shaky. With the recent federal election and just the constant concerns of, trade wars and what's going on with the states, I have people second guessing whether now is the right time to make a move. So even though the conditions are improving, both as buyers and sellers are playing it pretty cautious. And so with that said, what is actually happening in Toronto's market right now? So I want to just dive into these sales data because it just shows us a little bit what's going on right now. And so last month, sales were at 5,601 homes, which was actually down 23.3% year over year. So less homes are being sold. New listings were actually up 8.1%, which totals 18,836. And then when it comes to the average price, we're sitting at 1,107,000, which is actually down 4.1% year over year. Then when we look at the MLS bench price, it was also down 5.4% year over year. And then we're talking about the sales to new listings ratio. So again, it's basically a ratio between how many listings are out there versus how many sales happen. And so it's at 36%, which is still technically in a seller's market because anything above 20% is a seller's market. And then anything below 10% is a buyer's market. And then in between is more of a balanced market. And then the months of inventory is at 4.1. So let's just look at the detached market here first, where the average price was 1.43 million, which is down 6.9%. And then the sales was at 2,556. Then moving on to the townhome segment, where the average price was $1,080,000, which is down 5% from last year. And then the sales was 565. Then the last segment I want to talk about is condos, where the average price point was 678,000, which is down 6.1%. And then the sales for that month for condos was 1430. And you can kind of see a bit of a reoccurring, or I should say trend here when it comes to prices, that all segments have been decreasing. And then as far as that stat that I mentioned earlier that I found quite interesting was, despite the condo prices declining, condos have made up over 25% of all sales. So that's still a strong sign that first-time home buyers and just investors are seen to be stepping back in, possibly trying to get ahead of this summer rebound. So we'll see exactly what happens. But when we look at the data as a whole, we can see that we got more listings, we have more inventory, and sales are slower. But what should you actually do with this information? So if you're a buyer, I want to start with you first. You now have more choices than you've had at any point over the past 18 months. Prices are softening, and some sellers are starting to adjust their expectations. So just stay on the lookout. Condos and townhomes in particular are offering opportunities, especially if you're shopping under that 800,000 mark. That said, we're still seeing well-priced detached homes in just core neighborhoods are getting lots of attention. So just keep that in mind. And then if the Bank of Canada does lower its rates as expected in June, demand could spike again. So if you are planning to act, now could be a window of opportunity if it does make sense for you and your situation just before the competition comes back. If you're a seller, this section is for you. You need to be more strategic. The market is price sensitive and the days on market are climbing. Those quick weekend sales, they're unrealistic and are becoming more rare. Unless your home is turnkey and just priced to impress, it's likely going to take a bit more time and strategy. And so on that note, this is your play. You need to know your competition, price realistically, and make your home stand out with prep and staging and smart marketing. Because at the end of the day, all these buyers have more options, more opportunities, and you need to stand out. And then to make things even more challenging for you is that the average days on market is growing. Right now it's sitting at 27, but it is growing, so it just makes your life more difficult. And so right now, Toronto's market is in transition. You got buyers who are cautious, sellers who are adjusting, and depending on your price point or property type, your strategy needs to be dialed in. The next interest rate announcement in June could change the game, but until then, the edge really does go to those who are informed and ready to act. If this helped give you some clarity, just go ahead and hit the like and subscribe so you don't miss out on next month's report. And if you want to see how this month's compared to last month's, where I kind of talk about some trends that are still shaping the market today, I'm going to link that video right here. And while you watch that, I'm going to go fly some drones.